G'day folks. Well, I just thought we'd have a look at this VSA engine before I put it aside with the other two for rebuild. It's definitely been through a fire, as I mentioned earlier, but it hasn't actually burned up to the point where it's damaged metal parts or ruined all of the paint. You can still see the original maroon paint on it. Wherever around it's burnt and left plastic and crap dribbled all over it, and that's about it. But something's dragging inside here when I try and turn it over. The bore looks good. A lot of oil and crap in there from me oiling it up, but the valves are moving, they're not stuck like I first thought. Yeah, it hasn't burnt up completely, but it's gotten hot. So I'm going to take the flywheel off and see if the coil's dragging on the flywheel or something's expanded and dislodged. Worst case scenario is there's a binding or damaged bearing in the bottom end, who knows. The oil that came out was alright though. It's not carbon black like some of the small engines I've stripped down. The debris in the tub was already there, but it's not burnt black pure carbon like I get out of some small engines. This one's been well cared for, oil wise anyway. Okay, well the flywheel has been dragging on here. The bottom end feels fine once the flywheel's off. I'm not going to open up, or I will open up the bottom end actually and pop the piston out, just so I can clean up the bore a bit and make sure the rings are free. I'm going to leave it looking fairly rustic. I'm not going to clean it. I'm not going to give it a paint up. I'll leave this one looking as original as possible anyway. I'm going to put a new ignition lead on it though, because the old one's obviously been burnt at one stage and they just wrapped it in tape. That'll arc out probably down in there. I mean, yeah. It's the only thing that I'll definitely replace. Everything else is right. It does have spark. I've tested it before. I pulled it apart and it was sparking a bit poorly, but the points gap was very minimal, so I fixed that. I'm going to clean up the flywheel on the end of the magneto coil. And the flywheel itself, you can see where it's been dragging. I don't know if this is warped or not. Probably wouldn't hurt to skim a tiny bit off it on the lathe actually. There's not a lot of clearance there. Been hitting the coil as well by the looks of it. Might have to make some adjustments. The shaft could be bent or the bottom end bearing could be a bit flogged out. It never appeared to be any deflection, but we'll see how we go. Okay, well I've done a bit of mucking around and I've found it's not so much the casing that's the problem here. Somebody's done something really bad to this flywheel. I've also just noticed the Woodruff key slot is egged out pretty bad too, so it's been loose on the shaft for a while. They haven't tensioned the nuts properly. The worst part is the reason for this scoring here and on this magnet. Now normally these are machined or finished machined with the magnets cast in place and they're flush. This one here is protruding inside, that's why it's been hitting the coil. I was a bit puzzled at first, and then I cleaned it up and looked at the rim of it, and there's clearly a hammer blow mark right there, like someone's tried to free the flywheel up or done something. They've hit it with a hammer and it's forced that shoe out, like pushed it in, and that's where they've really wrecked this engine. They probably also bent the flywheel at the same time. I think this is a very low grade cast alloy or even zinc, and there's not a lot of meat in the centre of this boss, so that I'd probably have to skim that off a bit so that it clears the housing on the lathe. It's very close fit, so I don't have to skim much, and try and drive this magnet back or just skim it off and hope it works, because this thing's scrap otherwise. The key slot I can compensate for. You can use some Loctite instant metal or something like that. I mean, it won't come off again in a hurry, but just chuck it back together again as it is. They've really done a number on it, unfortunately. The rest of the engine seems to be fine. It just needs the valves relapsed because it's been outside for a while. It's got rust on the valve seats. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame about the flywheel. It's a Lucas item. It's not actually a stamp, it's just a ink marking there. JLRS 579. And there's a casting side here. FRI 467020. So that's probably the serial number for it, but it's a Lucas made item. So that's about it for this engine. I'm going to put it in the hard but not impossible pile. I'm not going to get rid of it just yet. But I just don't have time for it at the moment. I've got other stuff to catch up on. I want to do the Kelly and Lewis, and more work on the Range Rover. I've got the generator. I was going to do that last night actually. I was going to play with the generator, but I ended up dragging this out. It's fun getting sidetracked. Thanks for watching.